From the former convent of the Good Shepherd overlooking Inwood Hill Park in New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome visual artists Robbie and Robert Bailey. Robert Bailey currently serves as the head of photography for Tarisio Fine Instruments and Bows. He earned his Bachelor of Fine Arts in Photography from Ohio University and has gone on to work as a commercial photographer for clients including United Airlines, Nike, and the United Nations. Robert was also an adjunct professor at Ohio Northern University and has lectured at the School of Visual Arts, Rochester Institute of Technology, and the International Center of Photography. Robbie Bailey is a freelance photographer and digital consultant in New York City. She studied radio and television broadcasting at North Carolina State University, followed by documentary photography studies at the International Center of Photography. Her commercial credits include Toys R Us, Bessie Johnson, Ralph Lauren, and the New York Yankees. The Baileys collaborate on their personal documentary projects and environmental portraits. Their photographs have been published in the New York Times, as well as being featured on the Today Show, the Discovery Channel, and the NBC Nightly News. We're going to talk to them about their work and so much more. But first, let me welcome you both to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's so great to have you here.
Very happy to be here.
Happy to be here.
So how you been? It's been 2 years.
We're doing great. I know. We've missed you.
I missed you too. Well, let's start out with your personal or professional lives. Let's go over the professional lives. You both have a background working with many commercial clients to put food on the table. Each have specific looks they want captured, I feel. And so this is more of a relationship question with clients question, because I always feel like this podcast has a bit of an educational aspect to it as well as professional aspect to it as well, because sometimes clients have a very clear version of what they want to accomplish, but it may come to a surprise that those that are listening, sometimes those clients who are calling the shots either have no concrete idea of the composition of the photo, or 2, no idea how to achieve them, and perhaps 3, are not great at communicating what they want. So
he's been reading our mail.
So taking it from the pros here, how do you deal with your clients? What beyond what advice you can give, like what is that relationship like? Because at the end of the day, you're the one having to deliver. So it's a communication question in many ways, but also a deliverables question. And how are you able, because it's about having a life, because the greater picture is about having a career in the industry of commercial photography.
Sure. Okay, great. Do you want me to take that one, babe? I think that, first of all, that's a great question. And I'm not joking about you reading our mail. I mean, it seems like you have an intimate knowledge of what it's like to work as a commercial photographer here in New York.
Not one lesson, I promise.
Oh, but I would imagine there's a lot of similarities between what we do and what you do with Inwood Artworks. We were talking about how you prep for what we're doing right now. And I heard you say that you listen a lot. You listen and you do your homework, you do your research. And I try to do that with every client, because they will tell you what they're hoping. They have a concept that they bring to you, and you have to be able to, interpret what it is you think they want. And then, like you said, you have to deliver. And that very often can get lost in translation. So it's a lot of listening, a lot of reflecting back to them of what you think their expectations are, a lot of visual cues. I'll pull up examples of photographs. I'll basically go on the internet and I'll search for similar themes, and I'll show them, is this what we're going for? Or I'll ask them, do you have visual samples of what you're hoping for? I'm trying to understand the picture that they have in their head so that I can help them translate it to our shoot.
Great answer. Robert?
Yeah, I think the only thing I could add to that would be, let's just say the best clients are the ones that give you a bit of a longer leash to be creative.
True.
The reason they hire you is obviously they've previewed some of your work, and they want to ideally they want to get the most out of your creativity. And so we always try to lean into the best clients, or we try to reconnect with the best clients as much, because they do give you more chances to be creative and a little bit of a risk.
And I think that's a great thing, because I agree. And when I hire photographers for different gigs that we do, you always want to see what the photographer can bring to the table too, right? Like you said, like why they like. What literally looking through their lens, what are they? What are they seeing that perhaps will enhance the product? We'll call it a product because it is commercial,
It
right?
is, it is.
For just using the technical term there. And also, I think taking away the guesswork of like deciphering what a client wants, like it's like the fear factor in many ways. Like, see how can we lessen that on both sides?
Exactly.
And delivering what everybody wants at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
Yep.
At the end of the day, there's dual responsibility. You know, have they communicated? Have they given you good art direction? And have you given them a good product? So that it has to be a two-way street as far as communication and managing expectations.
Excellent. Which leads me to Robert. As I mentioned, you're head of photography for Tarisio Fine Instruments and Bow. I believe they currently have a very fancy fiddle that they are promoting for their June auction. You also, I believe, photographed one that just sold for $16 million not too long ago as well.
That was a couple years ago. Yes.
It was a world record, though. They set the world record.
It's a world record. So I'm putting them both together here because I'd like if you would speak to how your photography helps move their business forward.
Okay. So my primary job, it's an auction house, so there's many, many instruments to photograph. So I'll photograph, just to give you a quick overview, about 4,000 instruments a year on average. But with the specific really high-end ones, well, with all of them for that matter, is my job is to be as accurate, have a photograph replicated as accurate as it is if you're holding it in your hands. Because part of the process of how we sell, besides online, is people come in and they play it and they hold the instrument in their hands and they look at it. And it is my job to make sure it's as accurate as it is if it's like right in front of their face.
Truth in advertising.
Yeah, and so that's part of my job. The other part of my job is to violins. I don't know if anyone you've asked has photographed violins, they'll tell you that they're rather difficult to photograph, not just because they're curvy and reflective, but because the color of the varnish literally changes with every different light source. So every violin is a unique instrument. There's
It's like a snowflake.
Yeah, there's not two alike, and so as I photograph one after the other, I have to literally make adjustments, whether that's on the computer with coloring or moving the lights a little bit to nudge it. So a great amount of care is given to getting the right final result.
You're looking for truth as best you can, represent the truth of the instrument.
And the reality is we are an online auction house. So a lot of people buy instruments sight unseen. So they really rely heavily on the visuals many times for condition purposes, coloring, whatever it is their primary interests are. So
that's a lot of responsibility on you to make sure it's right.
It is.
They come knocking. Hey, this guy's not going to return this violin, are they?
Yeah, if they get a different color showing up, they're going to be concerned.
Sure.
How did you get this gig?
Oh my gosh, it's such a funny story. We
love funny stories.
This is a great story because I was thinking about this earlier. It actually, if I didn't live in this community, by the way, Robbie and I have lived in this community for 23 years now.
23 years now, yeah.
And one of my neighbors, who I met in the laundry room, we had a conversation. She's from my hometown, Cleveland, as well, and she mentioned she played the violin.
A very accomplished violinist.
And so when I saw this job on Craigslist, because I was just looking to change up what I do photographically, I was like, oh wow, I could borrow her violin. So I borrowed her violin and I cleared the couch from one side of the room and made space, and I photographed it just like they do on their website. And that's how I submitted my application. So
with some photos, little visual
some
aids.
photographs, thinking this is what everyone's doing, but actually not everyone. I don't think anyone else did this. So they called me in. They said, "You're the last guy we're going to interview. Come on in." And after the interview, they said, "By the way, whose violin was that?" And just out of sheer luck, and like I said, out of this community, which has so many great musicians,
talented musicians,
it was a very expensive Amati violin.
Dom Niccolo Amati.
You had no clue.
No idea.
Yes.
And so just by sheer luck of where we live and who our neighbors are, I was able to have this opportunity to show that. And I don't know if it sealed the deal, but I think it left a memory with
I think
for
it
these
definitely,
guys.
well, it just sounds like, because if they're selling high-end violins, they must, who knows what they thought, but but as someone who hires people on a daily basis, seeing someone who has like showing an expensive violin in the proper way, as you say, mimicking what they do online.
Sure.
I think they're like, well, he's already doing it, so let's get
already
him.
doing it. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
kudos to you for matching him with their game and making it happen and faking it literally until you make it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It was the right time for that to happen. So.
Sure. All the cosmic tumblers definitely clicked into place for that one.
Absolutely. Well, moving on to your joint personal projects. You have a wonderful portfolio of documentary portraiture, from Burning Man to Astroland to
Certainly.
Coney Island and beyond. Robbie, what do you look for when shooting a portrait? What story are you trying to tell?
Well, a portrait, just like what Robert was saying with his violins, every single one of them is unique. It's a unique exchange of the person who's willing to sit for a portrait and what we're bringing to it. So I find that a lot of the starting point for a lot of our portraits that you see on our current website is we were visually fascinated by someone, especially down at Coney Island. We sort of, we started out just shooting documentary style, sort of like with a long lens, a camera where we could shoot and no one knew we were there. Sort of fly on the wall.
Very slice of life.
Very slice of life. They never knew we were taking their pictures. But when you start to do portraits, you have to engage people. You have to introduce yourself. You have to ask about them. You have to have a communication because it is a collaboration and you can't do it without their help, especially with a portrait. And so I found that a lot of the people that you see on our website are simply people that we fell in love with, that you got to know and you started to feel comfortable enough to ask, hey, would you like to work with us on a portrait? So a lot of these people that you see are people that we really admire. And sometimes they're people, especially the Coney Island folks, they're people that most people walk right by. And not only do they walk right by, they avert their eyes and maybe cross to the other side of the street, because they live very different lives, but we came to learn that these are a lot of the people that work down at Coney Island are members of the community. These are their jobs. So it's not like your typical carnival worker that's transient. These are people that live in the neighborhood. And they're very proud of that. And they're very hardworking and very dignified. And we wanted to show a little something different with our photography because many people go down to Coney Island and they want to capture the freakishness. They want to capture the circus chaos. And that's there, but we really, we have such a love and respect for the community and the members of the community that we wanted them to look like complete and total rock stars. So we hope that's what our photography conveys.
Well, thank you so much for your honest answer and for leading it, because I think you put the perfect button on it all. It's like they do. If those have been to your website or perhaps have seen them in person, they do come off as rock stars in their own, we'll call it a special quality about them, a unique special quality where they are the star of their own show,
Sure.
Whatever show that may be.
Exactly.
And maybe the show on the other side of the street you don't want to cross, but at the same time is that
Sure.
it brings a unique representation of who they are. And I think that's wonderful to be able to create that visual platform to showcase them as you see them and as they hopefully want to be seen.
Yes, it's an honor. It's an honor to be able to put them in that light and to tell their story in a way that maybe many people haven't been listening to what they have to say. And Robert and we make that effort.
Are there any portraiture projects in the works right now we should know about? Are there any special things happening, Robert?
Well, I'm full time at Tarisio, and
Yes.
I've been there for 12 years, so I have to keep that as my main focus. Robbie is more freelance. Perhaps she wants to share more of her projects that she's been working on.
You could talk about the ones we did in Vermont recently. That was.
So we do other things besides violins. At least I do. So we're winter swimmers, and we go to a competition in Vermont every year, every February. We've been doing it for the last 7 years. And this year, we've been photographing every time a little differently each time.
It was more journalistic style is how we started.
But this, same with it's the same way we started with photographing Coney Island. We wanted to engage people more, get to know them better, and to do that, we got to know them, so we want to do portraits of them. So this particular time, we took a whole different position on it. We actually isolated them in a predetermined location. We had a plan of how we just wanted to highlight them, most importantly, as athletes. They're not crazy people that just jump in the water that's cold. They actually train year round for this.
Sure. A lot of people are training to swim the English Channel.
Yeah, most of them have swum the English Channel, or they've done like a relay across the Bering Straits.
They're endurance athletes.
Yes,
they're endurance athletes. Exactly.
Yeah, just when we thought we were serious swimmers, we met them.
Yes.
So they're quite incredible, well accomplished, open water, long distance swimmers, most of them. Sure. And so we wanted to put them in that light. We felt that the way they might have been seen in the media and other places is they're being bundled with people that kind of jump in on New Year's Day, and we wanted to just give them the attention that we felt they deserved. And most people don't know that they have this other, they compete in races in Siberia, all sorts of really interesting, challenging. They swim in Antarctica.
Sure.
So that was our goal, was to put a spotlight on that.
We wanted them to look heroic instead of just, these are crazy people that jump in on January 1st. We really wanted to make them look like heroic athletes, because they are.
She refers to the polar bear plunge, for those who don't know, January 1st, which quote-unquote crazy people jump into the freezing waters to celebrate the new year, or their own craziness, depending on however you want to look at it. Do you consider this show finished, this Vermont show, portraiture, journalistic venture, however which way you want to concluded, or do you want to put it up as a show somewhere?
Oh, absolutely.
Or do you see it as it can be ongoing at the same time. There's no reason it has to end.
No.
But I'm just saying, just curious if there's something that if you have plans to put it up for everyone to enjoy.
I do. Well, it's a work in progress. Yeah. Every year that we've covered it, it has evolved slightly. And it's grown. The first year we were there, it's 30 people, and now it's approaching 200 with a waiting list. So the participants have grown. There's no other event like it in North America, so it's getting pretty popular.
And what is the name of the event?
It's the Lake Memphis Magog Winter Swimming Festival. And so it's in Newport, Vermont in February every year. And so giving a shout out to Phil. We love you, Phil. And so he organizes it, and when the swimmers come. And what's really great is, it's connected. It started with the Coney Island polar bears, our connection to it, because we went up with a group of polar bears. But then we got to know all the winter swimmers in Boston, and then people from the West Coast started coming out, and swimmers coming up from Maryland. So suddenly there was like this national network of people that would converge. So I see it as something that will continue, because like our affiliation with Coney Island, it's from the heart. We're part of that community, so we're always going to photograph Coney Island. And we're always looking different ways to capture it. And same thing in Vermont. We're always going to be a part of this community because we adore them. They're not just people that we photograph, they're our friends. And that is like our yearly reunion to come together and be together.
I love the fact that you use photography to help create community.
Yes, that is the goal.
And we have aspirations to take that to more an international scale. We'll see how that develops over time. But, our network of friends is a little more extensive in Scandinavia, in Russia, Latvia, Estonia. We've also swam in China, and we've met swimmers when we were in South Africa as well. So,
sure. Winter swimming is like an event where in the United States it's new, but in other countries it's like an Olympic event it's very well organized, timers. I mean, it literally medals, podium, national anthems. It's a very big deal, and we're trying to catch up. Wow. But so we would love to display the images that we've shot in Vermont, kind of like as a photo expo, Photoville style, maybe on some of the fencing. And locally, we'd like to display it there. But then, as Robert said, we would like to maybe travel to the more international, bigger events and document the swimmers there.
Well, we have a lot of international listeners, and national as well. So maybe perhaps somebody out there can contact the Baileys here and help them along on their adventure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
We
Always
welcome
welcome.
Well, you all are such an inspiration here. How has the neighborhood been an inspiration to you all in your work? Or has it at all? Maybe it's not been.
No, absolutely. Like I mentioned with getting my job with Tarisio,
Yeah.
that was an indirect way that we didn't know it was going to happen. And of course, when I moved in this neighborhood, when Robbie and I both moved in this neighborhood, we didn't know we'd be here for this long.
Makes three of us.
But you know, it's the more that we get involved with the community, getting to know your neighbors, you know, all that very obvious stuff. That it's just like, no, this is home. This is where we base ourselves out of. So, but like I said, Robbie's doing a little more photography work around that community than I am right now. So maybe she
Yes,
could.
thanks to you.
add
You
that.
shared my Dr. Ruth picture.
Yes.
Yes.
And for those who don't know, Robbie photographed Dr. Ruth Westheimer
Yes.
getting her, I'll call it a plaque, but at least her,
It's like her tulip,
a recognition, if you
dedication,
will. A dedication,
yeah.
thank you, at Fort Tryon Park. Her tulips. So it's called Dr. Ruth's tulips. So she has a whole garden, a
A
bed.
scientific variety made especially for her.
Yes,
Out of her,
and-
as a thank you for her dedication to salvaging our park.
Yeah, yeah. She's a big giver and supporter of Fort Tryon Park, and that includes the Fort Tryon Park Trust, which
Indeed.
was set up outside of the Parks Department to help support and renovate and maintain the beautiful, wondrous nature of that
Exactly.
park.
Very important part of our community.
Great respite for the community.
Very true.
And
very
also
true.
thank you as well for doing the photos for our Mendelssohn on the Hudson walk
Oh,
as
it was
well.
my pleasure.
It was a lot of
I
fun.
loved that.
And
That's
doing a
a
little,
great
not
project.
portraiture per se, not a lot of people in them, but
Sure.
you rose the occasion. And thank you for taking that on
You
and
bet, you bet.
and showing. And you can go on our website at inwoodartworks.nyc and Mendelssohn on the Hudson. You can see her keystone photos for each of the episodes we had. They're beautiful landscapes of our community.
That was great fun. I was so happy when you called me about that because it gave me an excuse. You know, with COVID, we were in our cocoons a little too long, and it gave me an excuse to get out into the neighborhood and be brave. And I didn't have to engage with people,
True.
but just to go out and have an excuse to go every day and capture our neighborhood in a beautiful light. That was a fun assignment. So I have you to thank for that. And then another instance, as far as lovely little neighborhood stories. Are you guys familiar with Mike, the knife sharpener? He drives
yes,
a little
he has.
truck.
It's a knife truck.
Yeah, knife
Instead of
truck.
food trucks.
Yeah,
it's a knife.
we have a
truck.
knife truck. Exactly. So you know Mike then.
Not personally, but I know his truck.
Yeah, well, I have seen the truck for years. I work at home a lot. I do a lot of post production in our home office, and so you hear it's not like the ice cream truck bell. It's a very distinct bell that has it's a hearty bell. Like I think he's told me it's a fire station bell.
Wow.
So you'll hear the bell. I think he just like hits it with a wrench.
Ding.
Bing. Yeah, it's a very distinct bell, and he doesn't keep it going like the Mr. Soffy jingle. He just does it a couple of times, and the neighborhood knows to bring your cutlery, bring your shears, bring your kitchen knives out. And he has a full setup in the truck. And his family's been operating this business, I think, since 1941.
Yeah.
So our knives were dull. I'd seen it. I was at home. I had a moment. And so I gathered them up, ran down the stairs. And in talking to him, he was so precious in the sense that you just don't see businesses like that anymore. And he's got his dog in the truck. Gus is his dog, the sweet, pit bull that's so ugly. She's
Literally
beautiful.
a mom and pop.
Yeah, literally a mom and pop and a dog.
Or pop and,
Pop and pup.
And
Pop
Gus.
and pup. And so I was so smitten by him that I ran up. I said, do you mind if I do a couple pictures of you, Mike? And so I ran back upstairs. Robert and I live in a 5-floor walk up. So if I run upstairs to get the camera, I really am smitten by you.
Yeah.
So I grabbed the camera, and as he's working with the neighbors, I just started taking a few pictures and just capturing that moment of a small business owner that has no advertising, no internet, no email. He literally advertises with the ring of a bell, and everyone knows him and comes out. And just the interaction that I got to have with the neighbors was lovely because many of them had known him for years.
Send me those photos too, and we'll post them.
I will. I will share
We'll
those
do a
with her.
little
That would
show
be
sometime.
delightful. That would be delightful.
Well, Robbie and Robert, you guys are neighborhood treasures, and it's a pleasure speaking with you. Any bucket list projects you still want to do that you have on? I mean, I know you got a full-time job, Robert, but I know you have aspirations too. So, like anything in your back pocket you want to do?
I think in general, Robbie and I are working towards developing obviously more portrait work, collaborative portrait work. Our goal is to be interchangeable with whatever we're doing and wherever we're doing that. And then to develop more fine art sales, develop time to create fine art.
Yeah.
that's
exactly.
a big lift right there. And then, as we, just evolve as photographers, to let it have more freedom to explore ways that we haven't tried yet.
Sure. Yeah, we've had great commercial success. So I think what Robert is alluding to is we would like to do more fine art, personal projects that aren't linked to a client, that we can just basically do with a purity of creative energy and intent.
Yeah.
Exactly. So so portraiture is definitely something that we both enjoy doing together, that we hope to continue to do.
And then one of these days we'll get Robbie on a TED Talk. So
I don't know. I think Aaron's definitely going to have the TED Talk before I do. There's no doubt
Aaron
about
talks
that.
fine right here.
Aaron
me
does
right
a great
now.
job.
I'm not TED, but hey, I'm fine being chopped liver. It's okay.
No, you are nowhere near. Baby, you are filet mignon.
Oh man,
Aaron, you are everything that you've done for our neighborhood, Inwood Artworks, everything, because we've been in 2 of your gallery shows.
You have been.
So
yes,
you have created a
Loved it.
space for us as creatives in Northern Manhattan, where we can come together and learn from one another and grow together. And you are the nucleus of that. So it is our honor to be sitting here next to you.
My pleasure, and
Thank you.
my only regret is I can't do more. It's a unique thing coming. We'll say, knock on somebody's wood, coming out of COVID, that more storefronts and commercial space will be available. Not that I want anybody losing any businesses, but that's the natural cycle, that hopefully more venues can become available to be able to do, Robbie said, very community-centric programming, showcasing local artists, champion local artists, cultivating a local visual arts loving audience amongst the performing arts and everything else. And, from those conversations, portraitures happen, and like you said, conversations happen, and hopefully, those collaborations everybody benefits from. I feel they do anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us today on Inwood Artworks On Air. But before we say goodbye, where can we send them to showcase more of your work?
Well, right now our website is, we're updating the website, but you can still see our older Coney Island work, things that you've referenced, and that's at baileyphoto.com. And if you'd like to see Robert's work, I'm sure many musicians in the neighborhood already know this website, because it's quite the go-to for information and inspiration, and that's the Tarisio.com.
Never get a sponsorship out of them for this. I mean, come on.
I know, exactly. Tarisio. Oh, and I told Kara, after we finish this interview, I'm going to share with Aaron and the crew here Dutch Baby bakery treats.
Wow.
We have a new bakery in our neighborhood, and I'm going to give a shout out to Kara, because it is, after living here since 1999, this is my new favorite addition to the neighborhood. I do not work for Dutch Baby. I do not own stock in Dutch Baby, but I eat a lot of Dutch Baby products. So we're going to have some of those after our interview.
We're small business as well, so we're happy to support and eat their food.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, thank you for bringing it, and the crews. I can hear the sound designer is doing the mix right now, getting everyone's stomachs in check here.
Yes.
Well, again, we'll put the link to your website on our description of our webpage, so people can find your photo, and Tarisio too. Not that they need our help, but still, I'm sure. But you know what? I have to say, Robert, you said it earlier. It's like, this community is full of crazy talented. We've had many violinists on. We had musicians from the area play on here, and some of our violinists and cellists, and you never know
I'm sure
where
they're
sales
already
come from.
quite familiar with Tarisio.
I bet they are,
and they're actually very good at connecting young artists with instruments where they can get sponsorships,
right,
where people can come in, and if it's a young, aspiring, very talented musician, they will help match them with an instrument, sort of like a Harry Potter matching someone with a wand.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
That's
That's one of the
cool.
really important things that they do there. It's admirable.
Now I want to play violin, but I don't have time for it.
You can come by anytime.
I would love to. I'll listen to us play. Well, thanks again to Robbie and Robert for making time to be here today with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, writers, filmmakers, theater makers, photography, enthusiasts, and artists of all stripes who make their home here in Upper Manhattan. If you have a moment right now, please show some love for us by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Many thanks to Church of Good Shepherd here in Inwood NYC for hosting us, and to hidesites.com for uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate. Be sure to follow us on social media if you can, at Inwood Artworks, to keep up all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, pop-up galleries, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.